Hang on, let's have more light. That's a lot of light. Wow. Okay, that's too much light. Let's not do that.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to what is technically almost the last update we're going to do for Tale of Four Gamers. We've built our armies. This would be the last update where we show them off and go to an event, but the event isn't happening till February, and we are done. Thanks for coming. We're all here.
Hello.
Hello.
So for anyone who hasn't seen this, we'll give a quick recap because this is update 6, I think. We originally started this in lockdown when our friend Ben raised the idea of a Warhammer Fantasy 5th edition campaign day whenever the pandemic was over, whenever lockdown was finished, and whenever those were possible. We all had slightly different ideas about what we build. We all rolled up our territories on the 5th edition multiplayer campaign territories table, and then we started to build our armies, and we've been tracking those progress. But in this video, what we're going to do is just go around, remind everybody of what we were building, how that went, and then we've photographed all the armies. We're going to show what's in every finished army and zoom in and out of it. Everyone ready?
Yeah, no, I'm not. My life. This light is just too
We've
bright.
built an army. We've all built an army now. We can play 5th edition whenever we want. We'll do a video about the event in 2022 when we do that. I think it's February 2022. But for now, let's have a look at the armies. Let's start with you, Russ.
Yeah, okay.
So briefly, what have you been building?
So, yeah, I've been doing my Chaos Army based around Chaos Warriors and some of the really old 80s Marauders and Chaos Knight models.
The whole point of this is that it's potentially one of the oldest model collections that's going to be there, right?
Yeah, I think there's some ogres that I've been using in the army that I'm not quite sure whether they're late 80s or early 90s. I suspect early 90s because they're Marauder ogres, but I'm not quite sure. Everything else is definitely from the 80s. I do know, though, there's going to be some people there with models from like the early 80s rather than mid to late 80s. So I'm not gonna take the overall prize, but on average, I might land up having the oldest army.
And how have you found actually trying out the army over the last few months?
Yeah, it's done well, actually. So I played a good few games against Nathan. I think I mentioned him a couple of times. So I've beaten his Dark Elves a couple of times. Yeah, the army's doing all right. It's got some weaknesses, but overall it's got enough strengths to pull out quite a few wins, yeah.
Have you enjoyed the project?
Yeah, I've enjoyed it a lot, actually. I think it's always been one of my favourite armies. The whole Chaos, Slaves to Darkness, Lost and the Damned vibe is, I think, one of the things that sort of solidified my whole interest in Games Workshop when I was a youngster anyway. And so I felt as if I was sort of painting the army I wanted between the ages of sort of 12 and 16 that I was never going to be able to manage back then, either through finances or ability to paint enough models and stay committed to something. So it really felt like I was doing something that was both good and getting one of those childhood dreams sorted out.
I guess let's have a look at the army.
Yeah.
You laid us through what's in the Chaos Horde.
So the army's led by Kovor the All-Seeing. He's a Chaos Master Sorcerer in our actual campaign that we're running. I've used him as a Chaos Sorcerer Lord in some games, but he rides a disc. He's a very knowledgeable chap. He's a bit of a genius, even if some of the things he knows are a bit trivial. And I wonder if anyone will be able to look closely and figure out why I'm saying that. But he's been really effective. I really enjoyed painting him. Lots and lots of sort of detail on the model that was really nice to get to. And then his lieutenant is a guy called Delgor, who his paint job's not 100% finished in terms of getting some highlights on him. But in terms of game, he's been an absolute star in every game I've played. Yeah, then the infantry units, there's a few there. There's the Chaos Warriors. There's a dozen of them. About 4 of them, I think I painted them in the early 90s. And they sort of look okay, considering I painted them when I was about 15 years old, in my opinion. I've still got to finish their really, really over-the-top banner, but they've just got a plain red banner for now just to do the job. The Marauders, I think, are the unit that actually makes the army look like an army. There's 20 of them, and it looks like, it gives the army some real heft in the middle, I think. And they've been quite effective. They're cheaper than the Warriors, and they're easier to kill. But when it comes to actually dishing out some damage, if anything, they're slightly better because I always arm them with flails. The Ogres, now 3 or 4 of them are also models I started painting in the early 90s, and a couple that I got off eBay and just amended their paint jobs so they'd fit in with the others. Mm-hmm. So I've got another sort of dozen or so ogres in a tub that I'll at some point paint up and replace those ones, but I think they're perfectly good for now. The dogs, one of the most useful units in the army.
These are Chaos Hounds, right?
Chaos Hounds, yeah. I've found them incredibly good at both acting as a screen and actually at sort of doing a surprising amount of damage sometimes. I've still got to write up a battle report between me and Gary, and I think the shock on both of our faces when they made a unit of a dozen ogres leg it off the board was quite something. I think there's just one unit left, which I wanted to save till last, is the Chaos Marauder Horsemen, which I think are the ones I put the most, I put a lot of time into painting them, especially the horse with tiger stripes. I think that's probably my, not the best painting in the army, but my favourite overall outcome from painting. And they've been really useful in every battle as well. They can go around a flank and just be an absolute nuisance, making the enemy have to rethink where they want to be, what they want to do. I use the old Chaos Knight models with maces and just put a little bit of plastic chain there to turn those into flails. So they hit really, really hard on the charge. And they probably look slightly better armoured than their rules would suggest, but I can live with it. Then they're not so extreme that I feel like it looks ridiculous or anything.
It's brilliant. It's a really colourful, vibrant army, which is quite nice.
I think one of the things I'm really pleased with is there's lots of different colours in there. I think it manages to still look like an army rather than just this absolute mob of a million different colours. And that was something I really wanted to achieve. So I'm kind of happy at how that turned out.
There we go. One Chaos army down and ready for conquest in February. Gary, how was your experience on this? Tell us what you've been building for anyone who's forgotten.
So I built a Fimir army, and I based it on the Orcs and Goblin rule, like army book, to accommodate the number of ogres that I wanted. Plus I wanted war machines, rock lobbers, and a dragon. So they all fitted in nicely into the Orcs and Goblins.
You wanted a dragon because you've not played fantasy before, right?
No, yeah. Playing fantasy means big stuff, dragons, high fantasy, and bolt throwers and stuff like that. So I wanted those in, plus the fantastic beasts aspect of the Fimir themselves. So, yeah.
Of course, yeah, as you said, Fimir not actually in 5th edition. So had to be substituted for Orcs and Goblins, which actually seemed midway through this seemed to work out okay.
Yeah, it worked out good. The only drawback was I couldn't have a champion, I couldn't have a banner carrier because ogre units don't have any upgrades. It's a pretty basic unit itself. And
then, of course, halfway through this, everyone thought we'd be getting new Fimir.
It was the trailer dropped for the Dominion. It was like out of the mist and out of the swamps, and it's like, oh, well, it's got to be Fimir. No,
that would have been amazing if it had been.
That would have been outrageously good. So it was these orcs and goblins, like hobgoblin things. So I bought some anyway because I did need small units to unlock the war machines. Because with the orc and goblin army book, you got to take a unit of orcs to get the rock lobber.
But for now, the army is done. You've been playing some games with it. How's your first games of fantasy gone?
Yes, it went really well. My first game, I realized that I didn't know how to play at all. It was an eye opener where halfway through I was wondering, I'm not even sure if I like this. When I put my dragon next to Ben's HQ, he was like, "Oh, so I suppose you're going to use your flame?" And I was like, "My dragon has a flame."
That was hilarious.
He was like, "Yeah, dragons breathe fire," and I was like, "Yeah, oh, great, cool." Then he says, "Well, actually, we'll find out what type of fire it is." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" And he goes, "Well, you've painted it green." So that means that it's acid breath. And I was like, "Okay, right, let's find out what that is." So there's a lot of rule book looking at going, "Oh, this is all what am I doing here?"
So why don't you take us through then? Let's have a look at the army and take us through what you have been building for 8 months.
Yeah, so the core of the Fimir army is the Thermar Warriors. So I started off by painting up 18 of those, and they can be broken into squads of 6 or 3 or 2 squads of 8, I guess.
They're the Forge World models from about 10 years ago.
Yeah, they're the Forge World. I think they came out during the storm of Magic, was it? Originally just picked up a few to make a Blood Bowl team out of, and I had a lot of fun painting the 6 that I made a Blood Bowl team out of. So I thought, yeah, I'll buy more, and made an army. To lead them, I needed my noble, and I wanted a dragon, so I found a way. At first, I thought it was going to have to be a count size of wyvern. When I got the book, it's got dragons in it, so that's great. I can have a basic dragon, put an orc on it, and that's my HQ done. In the games, the dragon itself is being stellar. It causes terror. It kills things a lot. And then I also got 10 orcs from the Dominion box set. I got the 10 orcs, and I got those painted up, made them with Celtic shields, so they matched the Celtic vibes of the Fimir. And that allowed me to make a rock lobber. And the rock lobber is quite good, if massively inaccurate. I need more. I think that's orc tactics, isn't it? 1 in 3 might hit, so you need 3 of them.
If you're not going to hit with 1 shot, well, don't have 1 shot, have 3.
I think in this campaign means finding forests.
That's a big limit in the campaign, but I've already got the lobber. So once the campaign's over, I'll paint more, and I'll make the army 2,000 points, and I'll be adding in the stuff that I couldn't have because of the campaign.
But for now, there's 1,500 points of Fimir pretending to be orcs and goblins there, which all look fantastic. Well, that's 2 armies down. Bobbie, tell us what you've been making for the last few months.
Yeah, I've been working on a Vampire Counts army, an army that I've always wanted, as I think most of us, armies that they saw as a child, and just it wasn't in their budget, or fantasy wasn't my game. I could kind of focused on 40k when I was younger. It was something I always wanted, and now I have, which is nice. I think my army's got some of the newest produced miniatures in it. Obviously, the zombie kit, although it was released in 1999, it only just got replaced during this project. So
yeah,
so some of my zombies were only produced like last year. So
your army, I guess, tends to be like late 90s, early 2000s ish, right?
Yeah, almost all of them. There are a few older models in there. I've got some of the Marauder whites and
amazing. And have you enjoyed assembling over the last 6 months, or has it?
I have. The zombies, the number of zombies was a little bit much. They're not the most fun models to put together, just because old plastics. They're a bit. They did need replacing, and I do have some of the plastic skeletons from that era that I'm still working on, just because I know how fragile they are. So I'm going in and pinning all the joints and trying to make them as robust as possible, and that's just meaning that they're taking forever. But luckily, they're not in the army list, so they're just extras.
You've done 1,500 points, like we all have, but you've also purchased a bit more than that when building.
Yeah, I've had a few very kind people come and contact me whilst the project's been going on and offer me old minis that they've had. So I've had some for free, I've had some very good deals. I finally got a black coach. Pretty much all of the old undead models I could possibly want. I've got loads of ghouls, all these things that I've got to paint that are not currently on my army list.
Did you say you've got one of the old Nagash models?
Yeah.
Are you going to paint it up in sort of the traditional style, or are you going to try and do some converting and make something different out of it?
We've established that it's one of the best models ever produced, right?
I'm not sure.
Amazing conversions of it, where people have updated it a bit.
I'm almost tempted to try and do the model as is and just try and do a good paint job on it and try and make it look good with a good paint job, rather than resculpting. Because if I'm going to resculpt it, I may as well just do an entire sculpt, because pretty much everything about it needs resculpt.
There's an Instagram channel that I followed called Nagash Models on eBay or something like that, and it's literally just this bloke, every time he sees a Nagash for sale on eBay, takes a screenshot and just posts it on Instagram. And some of the things you see there are amazing, and some of them are absolutely hideous.
I might have to look that up for some inspiration.
Brilliant. But regardless of the now colossal backlog of undead models, to add to this,
about 4,000 points of them sat in various boxes. Yeah,
you have got 1,500 points up and running and playable.
I do.
And what, Bobbie, is in your army?
My army is led by a Lemayan vampire lord. She's converted from one of the Bretonnian sorceresses with a sword from a white and some severed heads. As all vampires, you need some severed heads just to show that you mean business. She's generally leading a unit of Graveguard as her bodyguard, 14 Graveguard with heavy armor and all of the extra HQ characters, but definitely worth bringing along. Second in command for the army is Necromancer, who none of my characters got names yet. I might have to do that for the campaign. I painted up one of the classic, I forget who sculpted this Necromancer, but it's my favorite of the kind of like mid-90s Necromancer figures. He just doesn't fit into a regiment very well. As you can put, from the pictures, he's kind of a bit, his weapons poke out too much and you just can't quite rank him up well. So I might have to paint up one of the many other Necromancers I picked up just so I can have them stood in the regiment. It's going to be leading a unit of 14 skeletons, armored skeletons, because we want the Necromancer to survive. I've got a Wraith as well, as I got, I think it's a village in the drawer that lets you have a hero for free. So I have a very heroic Wraith who's going to lead one of my 20 strong units of zombies.
How many 20 strong units of zombies?
I have 2 units of 20 zombies in this army, just to have a lot of bodies. I'm going to be summoning quite a lot more zombies and skeletons during the games to try and keep these units on the field, because I've got a feeling they're going to take some casualties along the way.
And there's one more unit left?
One more unit, which is 3 bat swarms.
Oh.
So I have something. Thought that you're getting a discount on them for having a vampire. So I was like, well, I've got to bring some bats for cheap. And it gives me something faster that can maybe help stop things flanking me, maybe. I think they're going to be their general use. Can't see them doing a lot of damage, but they're something that can sort of counterpunch a little bit.
Are they 8 inches movement, or are they more?
Can't remember off the top of my head. I think they might be 10-inch movement.
And if they count as flying, obviously they'd have more anyway, and that's going to be useful in its own right, just to get in position where you need things. Yeah.
Amazing.
Do you have any artillery or ranged stuff?
I have absolutely no ranged firepower. I am not playing that phase of the game at all.
Which is brilliant. It makes life a lot easier, as I have found.
Out of the 4 of us, I think, isn't Gary the only one who's got anything ranged, and it's one rock lobber?
Rock lobber.
Yeah.
Like, between the 4 of us, there's not a missile troop in any of our armies.
And the, I guess, the breath weapon of the dragon.
Oh, yeah. That's true. Yeah.
Only one with a rounded army. Brilliant. Thanks, Bobbie. It all looks amazing. I'm sure it'll be 3 times the size by the time we actually get to...
Probably. I'm hoping to get some more done sort of like over the winter and in spring, or have a huge pile of undead.
Amazing. Well, they look great. And that's 3 armies down. Mine is by far the smallest. I don't know if I ever said this at the start. I acquired a big box of old 90s metal Daemons. They've been sitting in a box for years and years, and I've slowly been getting a few of the smaller bits painted up. I did some Tzeentch Daemons and some Nurgle Daemons, but there was this huge box of Khorne Daemons sitting in my storage, and this was the opportunity to do them. I tend to paint everything in huge batches, though, so when I came to making an army, I quickly realized that I wouldn't need even a quarter of these, maybe a third of them max, in order to do a 1,500-point army. So I went into this painting the entire lot just because I use a lot of airbrushes and oil washes and things that are easier to do when you just do them as a big batch. So although my army is the smallest, I've probably painted some of the largest numbers of models. I painted the models for this army, and then I painted all the rest of the models I had at the same time and put them on Age of Sigmar bases. So I've ended up with an Age of Sigmar Khorne Demon army as well. Yeah, let's have a look at what's actually in it. So it's less than 30 models. It's led by a Bloodthirster who takes up exactly half of my 1,500 points. Bat-faced the Bloody. He is a Bloodthirster. He has wings because that's what Bloodthirsters have. And while he is waving around some weapons, they're not the magic ones because I don't have any points left over to give him any special abilities. In this edition, of course, characters can be 50% of your army. He's already 50% of my army before I give him any upgrades. So that's that. The other half of the army is 24 bloodletters arranged in 2 units of 12 with a full command. These are the 2nd edition chunky metal bloodletters, usually one piece. apart from the standard and the champion, who come in a few different bits. I think there's like 7 or 8 different sculpts of them with different arrangements of swords. I kind of like these. They're kind of comedy looking, like those 90s demon models often are. I've arranged them into 2 blocks of 12 and put them on some movement trays, some old green plastic movement trays. And then the final unit in the army is 5 flesh hounds, and that's it. That's 1,500 points.
Ridiculous.
Absolutely ridiculous. I put them on silly goblin green bases, just these guys. The rest I painted are on Age of Sigmar round bases. But I put them on some silly goblin green bases. I don't think we're going to add any to the army in the campaign because I've needed a lot of points to do that. I think any extra campaign points I get might just go on magic items for the Bloodthirster. That's it. That's my army. So there we go. Tale of 4 gamers. In terms of building these armies, 8 months, we've done it.
Hey.
Yay! We can all now play 5th edition Warhammer.
Well, with painted armies.
With painted armies, yeah. I mean,
before.
I mean, everyone plays with painted armies all the time, right?
I've never, ever used an army that's not fully painted, ever. That's morally wrong.
My absolute rule about never using unpainted models is the only way I get anything painted.
And hopefully these armies are going to be useful for the old world as well when that finally appears.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, in theory. Oh, God, that means I might need to actually base more of them on square bases again. Well done, everyone. There we are. That's Tale of 4 Gamers. We started this 8 months ago with our initial ideas about what we might do. We now have 4 lovely armies. And I guess the next update we'll do about this is in February, March, when the event is scheduled. And we inevitably bring them up against a load of people who've really thought about what they're bringing and table us every game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not expecting to win many.
I definitely want to keep playing 5th edition. I've been playing that as probably the thing I've played the most recently. And of all the games I've been playing, I think it's the one I've enjoyed the most. I think, Age of Sigmar can be fun, but there's lots of bitty rules in it. And I know 9th edition has its good points and bad points. And I had a really fun game last week. But again, sometimes that can just feel like an admin exercise instead of an actual fun game. Whereas 5th edition, it feels like the depth comes from the basic design of the game instead of lots and lots of little added on, tagged on bits. So I've enjoyed it immensely. And I'm really glad we did it.
In the 2 games I've played, it is refreshingly simple to remember compared to Age of Sigmar and 9th edition.
Like Age of Sigmar in particular, it's just, I have to keep referring back to the rulebook each turn, let alone each game, because it's just, what can I do? Oh, yeah, no, hang on, I'll use a command. Oh, no, I've used my command point. Oh, do I have a command point? When do I get command points? It's just it's a head scratcher.
Yeah. And by comparison to that, 5th edition seemed like a breeze once we got our head around what things like terror do.
Sure, yeah.
The rules for panic, I don't think Nathan and I were getting them right till about our 5th or 6th game. And then when he was using undead, it's like, right, we have to get this right because half the points you're paying for your army are because you have fear and terror. So we need to make sure we don't do it wrong. Otherwise, it's just not fair.
So I was learning that as I played the games against Nathan and yourself, whereby I didn't realize that the breath weapons meant that I should be forcing my opponent to take more leadership tests. And if they fail them, they turn around, which is a big change. If I can breathe on one squad, they turn around, I can ignore them for a turn.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So there's lots of little rules I missed out on occasionally. And I didn't make enough fear checks.
I think that's part of the learning curve, and I think it's a fairly short learning curve of a few games rather than a lot of games.
I'm instantly a lot more prepared now, having played 2 games.
Have you bought any armor for your general?
I will. What it is like I've got this mentality of trying to squeeze as many bodies into the game as possible,
which I think is fair enough when you're playing with ogres.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's easy enough for me to just drop 2 ogres, and that's 100 points worth of magic items I've got now, right?
Which will make a big difference.
Yeah, I'll just buy shield and set of armor, and no one will kill him. He won't die. The dragon will be a lot more useful.
So we'll find out next time how well all of that goes down and how well we play. Well, maybe we'll play some games before then. Maybe we'll actually try 5th edition on camera and see how it runs. But no, thanks everyone. It's been really, really fun. And it's been a nice thing for me as well, especially as we started this in like the second half of lockdown. It's been a nice sort of hobby support group to keep things going through that, especially when the physical clubs and things.
So what are we going to do next?
Well, so for all of you disappointed viewers who think this is the end of Tale of Four Gamers, I think we've all been talking about it being just the beginning. Especially when, I mean, who wants to reveal? When we all started hearing the rumors about Horus Heresy box sets.
Yeah.
There's a rumor about Horus Heresy box set. Really?
I'm still a bit iffy about this because I think it's a brilliant idea. I've got all these White Skulls that I'd like to build. You've all got ideas what to build. There's going to be a new edition. We don't know what's in the new edition. I am really not a fan of the old rules, but I think I've sort of come to the opinion that I play 40k. The original reason I was always I dropped Heresy when it went to 8th is because I didn't want to learn 2 sets of rules. But to be honest, I play 40k so little nowadays. Yeah. Probably doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's probably fair, actually.
When they do this new box set, the rule book will be tweaked. It will be changed. And I think it's also going to come with, like, you had the index books when they relaunched an edition?
Yeah.
I think have that, and that's the perfect sort of starting point.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, that's the hope, isn't it? So if I think there is the potential that depending on when this gets announced, we may start thinking about Tale of Four Heresy gamers. Shock.
Looking forward to it already.
Oh,
I was just maybe I'll be doing something. I mean, maybe he should stay out of focus, but
a sneaky early start. Are you thinking Imperial Fist then?
I didn't already buy some stuff either, honest.
I mean, I've been keeping up with the Siege Terror novels. I do audiobooks rather than actual reading books, but I don't know. I kind of like the Imperial Fists. I could see myself maybe collecting some Imperial Fists.
We're all terrible, aren't we? We're all just.
We're all going to drop 200 fucking quid on some box of models we definitely don't need. Is what we're going to do.
I've already got a couple of models right there. Why do I need a new box of models? What am I doing?
Well, I look forward to reconvening whenever the hell we have an excuse to reconvene and kick off the next one. But in the meantime, it's been lovely doing this. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to everyone watching who's been joining in and following and commenting. It's been really nice.
Thank you to you, Ian, for hosting this and keep suggesting it. I think it was a great idea.
Well done, Ian.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you for the next one.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.